Welcome back. So in this video we're going to talk about the C Corp. And normally when we say corporation, we're talking about a C Corp. We just don't say C Corp. So you definitely need a lawyer for this one, because in order to launch a corporation, you have to have articles of incorporation and you have to decide where you want to incorporate. Different states have different advantages and disadvantages for incorporating. Some have higher corporate income tax than others. Some have higher registration fees than others. Some are easier to register than others, so less bureaucratic or more bureaucratic obstacles. And some have friendlier corporate governance laws with regards to owners versus managers. Delaware tends to have more corporations than people because of the way its corporate governance laws are written, not because of its taxes or ease of incorporation or anything like that. So that's a decision you have to make. And that's something you want to have a very serious conversation about with your lawyer, but first do a little bit of your own research. Depending on what state you're incorporated in, papers may need to be continuously refiled, like on an annual basis. So again, that's another fee that you've got to pay each time, both to the lawyer refiling for you and also to the state that where you're actually doing the refiling as like kind of an administrative or government fee. And the thing about corporations is there is double taxation. In other words, like let's say I own a corporation and I take a salary from my corporation. So I get taxed on the salary that I take from my corporation, but that salary is already taxed before that. So the corporate profits are taxed, and then whatever's left over from that can be redistributed to owners or whatever. But corporate profits are taxed, and the salary that you take from the corporation are taxed. That's why we call this double taxation. Okay? And you probably think of this like actually with stocks, if any of you own stocks. When you get a dividend paid out as a stock owner, that's after taxes. So there's already a corporate tax that's been paid, and then when you get your dividend payout, you also get taxed on that. It's the same principle. So your profits are taxed and the salaries you take from that corporation are taxed. Now the good thing is you are only liable up to the point of investment. So let's say that you spend $100,000 of investment, making your, let's say Dave's Bakery decides to become a corporation. You spend $100,000 making Dave's Bakery an incorporated entity. You've got the actual bakery store and supplies or whatever. If your corporation goes belly up, the corporation just goes belly up. They don't come after your personal assets. You lose the $100,000 that you invested in the corporation, but none of your personal assets get taken, like your house or whatever. However, there is something called piercing the corporate veil, where if a court determines that you as an owner behaved in an egregiously unethical way, like you did bad things and probably knew you were doing bad things, that protection of the corporation can be taken away and they can still go after your personal assets and prosecute you personally, right? Because corporations are separate legal entities, if the corporate veil has not been pierced from a legal perspective, then actually sometimes the corporation gets sued. Criminal charges can be filed against a corporation, but not necessarily the owners or the managers, which is kind of tricky, right? But you think about that. If you own shares in your favorite company and they do something criminal, you're not going to get sued as an owner. Okay? Now, here's the other thing that you've got to think about when we talk about piercing the corporate veil. In theory, the fundraising is much easier, right? Because you can sell equity, you can sell shares in your company to raise money. Now, here's the thing. Let's say you go to a bank for a loan. The bank can say, we can make a loan to the corporation, but you, the individual owners, must co-sign that loan. So if the corporation is unable to pay off that mortgage, then the bank can still come after your personal assets. And that's a negotiation you have to have with your bank, but in many ways when banks do that, that takes away the advantage of filing to get a C Corp. There are different kinds of public corporations. There are different kinds of C Corps. There are public corporations, including the ones that are traded on a large stock exchange. There are those that are closely held, and that means that there's a very limited number of owners. Maybe they only award shares to like employees, for example. And then there are private ones that are where the shares are not traded at all. And that might be like a family corporation where they just don't trade any of the shares ever. Another thing about the C Corp that's nice is you can have an unlimited number of shareholders. If you have 1,000 shares that you can issue, well, guess what? You can have 1,000 shareholders. And now that fractional shares are available on many trading platforms, you could have even more than that. So you can have as many investors as you wish, basically. And that makes raising capital easier. Also, the C Corp, unlike the partnership and the sole proprietorship, you can offer tax-deductible benefits plans to your employees, such as healthcare, retirement plans, etc. So this is the C Corp. Now in the next video, we're going to talk about its cousin, which has a few differences, the S Corp. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that like button if you did. Hit the subscribe button too, please. And put some comments down below if you have any questions. Looking forward to seeing you next time.